So today's session is going to be about world streaming. And for the description of the session, we basically have see how popular worlds like Citadel and Spy School implement world streaming and learn how to use the same tools. Uh, Full disclosure, I did not work for Citadel. I did not work for Spy School. The reason why I'm mentioning those worlds there is because when I first saw those two worlds being published, I think that was the moment when Horizon kind of like had like a pivot moment in terms of like what is possible to accomplish with the tools that we currently have. We are commonly constrained um, to the limits of a world in terms of like capacity. But when we experienced worlds like Citadel and Spy School, we realized that there's much more than that. And the good news is that we all have those tools to be able to accomplish similar mechanics. World streaming. Uh, the concept of world streaming might seem a little bit like complicated when it first released, but when you see it this way, it's actually not that complicated itself. So what is world streaming? World streaming is basically having the concept of a main world and then having sublevels that are going to be streamed into that main world uh, through a gizmo. The rules are very simple. The rule is that each one of these sublevels must be published, and also they need to contain the information or messages or scripts that are going to be streamed into the main world. So most likely you are familiarized with what asset spawning is. Asset spawning basically allows you to say, hey, I want to see something in my world. Let's put it in the vector XYZ. However, with world streaming, we have more control about what the current state of what that information is going to look like in the world and the current state. And this is what this square here looks like, represents, is that for each one of these levels, we can get all this type of information about like what is the current state of that stream, right? So of that streaming. So in this case, we can get information like about not being ready, about not being loaded, in process of being loaded, if it's paused, if it's loaded, if it's active, or if it's in process of being unloading. This gives you like a lot of control in order to make sure that the experience is flawless, that you can continue, presenting the interaction to your players. So let's get to it. Let's start scripting and creating the worlds that we're going to be using for this demonstration. So I do have already the demo already built, but I'm going to do my best to create everything from scratch so you can get a full experience of what world streaming is and how it works. So for this interaction, I'm going to create a main world where I'm going to be using 2 levels with world streaming. And then I'm going to have kind of like a simple interface that is going to allow me to switch between one level and the other. So what I'm going to do here in this world is that I'm going to build the first level. So for this one, I'm going to create something very simple. I think I have some GenAI assets here that I can use. So I'm going to be using, for example, I'm going to create something very simple like catching chickens and taking them to a corral, for example. So let's see how if we get able to make it. So I'm going to bring the grass here, for example. I'm going to just put it in the floor. This was generated with GenAI, luckily, because my modeling skills are not very good. So this allows us to basically iterate or create like demos really quickly. So I'm just going to use that as the grass for now. And I think I have a chicken area here. So I'm just going to put it over here. And make it larger so I can actually interact with it. Right. And then maybe a tree or 2. So I'm going to bring this one over here. And maybe this one over here. There you go. That was one tree, and then the other one is gonna go on the other side. All right. Oops, that's what I meant. Just gonna move this up a little bit. That should be good enough for this demo. Okay, so as I mentioned, the interaction is going to be catching a chicken and then taking it here. So let's build those scripts. So for word streaming, the key or the trick is to make sure that all your logic is easier to compile and it's easier to move from one place to the other. We often, for example, when we create a world, we tend to create, let's say, like 20 different scripts for a simple interaction like this one. But in this case, just to make world streaming easier, I'm just going to try to capture all the logic in one script. Of course, everything that I'm going to be creating today is super oversimplified just for demonstration purposes, but that's the general rule. What happens with world streaming is that when you take this world and then you stream it into another one, all those scripts have to be recompiled. So the more scripts you have, then the slower that interaction is gonna be. So let's take a let's try this real quick. So I'm gonna create, of course, a trigger that is gonna be here in the area where the chickens are gonna be returned quickly. And let's go ahead and also create the asset for the chicken. So for this, I'm gonna use the public asset library, and I am going to use the chicken asset. And in order for us to be able to grab it, this has to be collidable. So I'm gonna add a collider in it. So I'm gonna bring a shape, in this case a sphere, and I'm gonna put it there. Let's make sure that it's centered. And what I like to do is that I like to copy the position here and then paste it to the other object that I want to move in. After I have that, we can go ahead and group it, then right click, create parent object. And now that that is like this, I can hide the collider, in this case, the sphere, but then the group itself has to be needs to be grabbable, right? Because we need to catch those chickens. So interactive, grabbable, and why not? Let's also add a use avatar cross screens grab anchor. So this is always recommended for cross screens. I don't think that this is stressed enough while we are creating experiences, because what tend to happen is that we don't have control with in cross screens to where the hands are going to be when you grab something. So it's always a good idea to give players a little bit of help. Just by toggling this option here, it's going to make sure that the object is at least being grabbed by the center. Whereas if you just leave it on toggle, there might be like a weird behavior with boundary box that it might be undesirable for players. So now that I have that, I guess that I can start working with the scripts. So for this, let's create a brand new script here. I'm gonna call this one chicken corral. Yep. And now that we have this, we can do the fun part and the reason why we're here, scripting. So the first thing that I like to do with the scripts is I like to remove the import all logic here. That might have some effects on performance. And let me remove all the aliases here for HZ. Let me zoom in so you can actually see it better on the screen. Because I know that some might be using laptops. Okay, so let me remove the HZ. So that's going to be HZ, and then replace it with nothing. And after we do that, then we can import this. So there are many ways how you can import missing APIs like this. You, by all means, you can type it here, components, and then import it like that. Or my preferred method is I like to just put my cursor there, and then I press Control period, and this opens this menu here, and then I click Add all missing imports. It's kind of like a shortcut there. So the next thing that we want to do, this is the area where the chickens has to be returned. We're gonna keep track of what chickens have been returned and how many, because we want to basically end this game once all the chickens have been returned to the area. So for this one, I'm gonna say private chickens, and instead of any, that was AI hallucinating there, this is gonna be an array of entities, because chickens are entities in this case. And we want to detect every time that a chicken is returned. So for this, we would need to initiate a subscription for the trigger. So this one is going to run on pre-start. All the subscription most of the time ideally must be initiating on pre-start. And what we do here is that we can now say when this code block events is detected by this entity. Remember that this is the area where the chickens are going to be returned. So this entity, and this is going to be a code blocks event that detect when an entity enters a trigger. And when that happens, if you remember from code blocks, what that does is that it gives you a new parameter or a new variable, which is in this case is going to be entity. Actually, is an entity. Entity enters trigger. And when that happens, that's where we're going to be running some logic. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do when the player returns the chicken to that area is that we want to force release it. So that way the player doesn't have it in their hands, right? So there's going to be entity. Remember that this is the chicken here, the entity. We can actually rename it. I can just say a chicken there, but in this case, yeah, let's do that. So keep it like easier to follow. So it's going to be the chicken, single chicken there. We're going to say that in order to be able to force release it, we need to acknowledge it to be a grabbable object. So that's what we do here with casting. We say that this is going to be a grabbable entity. And after we do that, we can now say force release. And that basically is going to make the player release the object. After we do that, I'm just going to hide the chicken. I'm just going to move it under the world. That's kind of like the default strategy, right? So position, set, and there's going to be new vector. And I'm just going to say 0, -100, 0, something like that. And then why not? Let's play some visual effects, right? Because everything doesn't have to be so without any feedback or interaction. So let's do something here. I'm going to do a VFX. And there's going to be, as always, as I always say, everything in the world is an entity. So in this case, the type is going to be prop types entity. So now when the chicken enters the area, we can now say this props VFX as a particle effect play. Just 1 second, my computer is losing battery here. There you go. Okay. So after doing that, VFX entity type. There you go. So after doing that, then we can now keep track of how many chickens we have returned in this variable here. So we can say something like chickens, push chicken here. So the next step is to keep track of how many chickens we have returned. So in this case, I'm just simply gonna say if this chicken's length is greater or let's say equals maybe 5, then we want to then end the game. This is a function that we're going to create later. Something that I like to do, and you're going to see me do often, is that I like to kind of like to plan ahead of what the script is going to require. So in this case, I know that I'm going to need to end the game. So instead of creating the method first, I just like to put it here, knowing that I have to create that later. I just like to Yeah, it's kind of like creating like a blueprint. And then I'm gonna go back to it. And then else, otherwise, let's just show a pop-up to that player saying how many chickens they have collected. So in this case, I'm just gonna say this world UI, show pop-up for everyone, that's fine. And then I can say here, chickens collected, that's good, but also I'm gonna let the player know how many, like what's the expected number. So in this case, out of 5, so that way they know. I'm gonna display it for 5 seconds. All right, so now that I have that there, what I need to do now is to end the game. So remember, I'm working on the sub level right now. We haven't worked on the main level yet. This is basically one of the interactions that the main level is gonna be able to present to the player to interact with. So in this case, I'm just gonna say private, end the game. And when that happens, oh, look at all this hallucination stuff that AI is suggesting here. Oh, that is wrong. So basically what I want to do is that I want to, and this is basically one of the secrets of world streaming. When you bring something into the world, the main world doesn't know, like might not know what the, sorry, it looks like someone is not muted. If you can, whomever is muted is talking there, if you can mute, please, that would be great. So when you stream an experience into a main world, that main world might not know anything of the logic of the sublevel. So in order to communicate from the sublevel to the main world, we need to broadcast an event. So in this case, we do something like this, send local broadcast event. And here, we're gonna create a new event here that we're gonna send over when the game is over. So in here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new file that I'm going to call share events. And here's going to keep my logic of the events that I'm going to be broadcasting. So if I go back here, share events, I'm going to delete all of that. And I am simply going to create an exported variable, exports. There's going to be a constant. And this is going to be, let's call it interaction. Interaction. And this is going to be a new local event without any parameters. All I need is a signal, right? The sublevel is going to send a broadcast event to the world, letting the main world know, hey, this is done. So let's go ahead and save this one now. And now that I have it saved, I can go back to the chicken script here and then use it. So I can say end interaction with no parameters. There you go. So that is done. So let's see, did I miss anything? I think that's it. Oh, maybe let's show a pop-up here, basically informing the player that everything has been collected. That should be good enough. All chickens are good. So let's connect that real quick to the world. So the script is going to be running on this trigger. I'm going to attach that script, which is this one. And this is going to be detecting objects. This is going to be detecting objects labeled as chicken. And I said that I'm going to be playing a VFX here. So let's go ahead and find a cool one. So luckily, Horizon has provided a bunch of new cool effects for us. So maybe let's try with this one. And I'm going to drag and drop it here. And we're almost to the part of the demonstration here. See all this, how this play out. And then the last thing that I need to do is that I need to actually give it, assign the same tag in here. So it's going to be chicken. Cool. So let's see if this works. I still have a gravel. Great. And let's bring this down a little bit because I think it's kind of like floating too high. Okay. Let's give it a try. So if I play the world and I grab it. Hey, but I didn't see the VFX playing. Let's see what happened there. So when the trigger enter, VFX or particle effect Gizmo. Oh, of course, I don't think I selected which VFX I want to play, right? I think that's important. the particles. There you go. And then we don't want it to play on start. All right. So if I try again, stop, play, and enter the world. Sweet. There you go. I have one. Nice. All right. So let me just duplicate the chickens really quickly, and then we're done with this level. So this one is duplicate. Then it's gonna. Always also is a good kind of like a good practice to create kind of like a asset template for this, so we don't have to do it this way. But we're just like trying to understand the basics of world streaming. All right. So before we leave this world, I guess I can just move it around a little bit more. But before I leave this world, something that is important to remember, and that always used to get me a lot when I first started working with world streaming, is that the world has to be published. And this is very important. And you're going to see that later on why that is important. But yeah, that's one of the requirements. See, I have all my chickens here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's important. Okay, good. So let's go ahead and publish this world. So I'm going to publish. I'm going to give it another name. I'm going to call this one demo level 1 dash chicken. So that way I know which one is this one. And we have to follow the same process of if we were creating, you know, a real published world, which is basically assigning all these categories here. Is I guess that we can agree that caching chicken is super comfortable in this case. And for now, I'm just gonna say arcade here and update details, and then go back to publish world and publish. Cool. So that's basically the process of creating a level. So now let's switch to creating the logic of the main world so we can see how that goes. So let me go back now to creations. Actually, I guess that this is a good stopping point to look through the questions. So let's see, what do we have? Recently, is there a way to refine the grab anchor positioning using the desktop editor? Other than tweaking the number of fields? Yeah, I'm gonna quote one of the things that you mentioned, Richard, and I think it was in Discord, like using using your imagination, I guess. But yeah, basically the only way right now to do it on the desktop editor is by basically tweaking, trying to see if it works, and then adjusting if needed. But the good thing is that if you get a good understanding. I'm not saying this for Richard. Richard is kind of like an expert in scripting. It's for everyone else. But it's kind of like if you know basically the work coordinates, you kind of like get a good grasp of what you need to adjust in order to modify the grab anchor. And it's basically when you go to the grab anchor, you're going to see the same axis here about XYZ, and that is basically following the coordinates of the local coordinates of that object. So if you adjust the x-axis, it's going to move it left or right. If you adjust the y-axis, it's going to move it up and down. And if you adjust the z-axis, it's going to move it back and forth. So that's something that just to keep in mind whenever you want to modify the grab anchor in desktop editor. The same thing with the rotation, right? Following the same logic here, you can adjust the rotation of the grab anchor. Villager type, please. Oh, my bad. Okay, I'm gonna increase the size of the desktop of here so you can see it better. Brian, with trigger connections, I like using player or object because it matches Horizon prop panel for trigger. Yeah, that's actually a good naming convention. What I always recommend creators is go ahead and follow whatever best practice you consider is good for you. Just make sure that it's consistent. Like, don't try to do something today and then do something different tomorrow, because you're gonna get confused. You're gonna confuse yourself in the future. I guarantee you that. So definitely follow, standards, but make sure that you are consistent with those. That's a great suggestion there. Thank you, Aurelio, for replying there. See, is there a limit of on sublevels active? A good question. So general rule, and the reason why we use sublevels is because we want to make sure that we are able to present different experiences to the player. If you were to load at many levels at the same time, it's basically it basically uh, uh, breaks the purpose of using sublevels, right? Because that will be equivalent of having the experiences in the world all the time. So the limitations there, answering your question in specific, is that the limits are the same as having like the meshes in the world. If you try to go beyond those limits, you're going to get an error in the process of like uploading a new level, telling you, hey, you cannot spawn more data to this role, something like that, right? So definitely you want to keep track of what the level of complexity you have in one of the on every level that you're going to be uploading into the main world, to make sure that you don't go beyond those limits. Currently, we don't have a way of tracking like capacity limits in the desktop editor, but something that I like to do sometimes is that I like to switch to my VR headset to look at the capacity meters, just to have an idea of how close I am to reaching those levels. But that's a great question. Most of the time, that comes down to experimentation sometimes. All right, so now let's go ahead and create the main level. Let's go over there. So return to creation home, and I'm gonna create a new world here. Okay, so for the fun part, let's just start creating the logic for the experience itself. So you already saw me how to create a sublevel. For the sake of time, I'm gonna use a second level as well, but I created that second level before this session, just to make sure that I have content for ready for you to cover during this this hour. So in this main world, where the goal is going to be is to load those two levels whenever the player decides to go for one interaction or the other. Let's see how that looks. So for this, I am going to create a simple, basically UX here, user interface here. So this is going to be basically a trigger or two triggers, one for each level. So let me just create this real quickly. Basically at the same level as the player, just this, and another one for level 2, like so. And let's add a label to it. Again, I'm just focusing mostly on scripting today, not so much about like building, just to make sure that we cover everything. So this is going to be the level for chickens. Let's switch this 180 degrees. There you go. So it's facing us. Out of it, no. And let's make it smaller. Something else I recommend during my sessions, I always encourage creators to maximize the use of shortcuts with your keyboard. As you can see, for example, you see me like switching between gimbals here, and I'm not touching these buttons here. That allows you to be more efficient with your time when you are, working with the desktop editor. We do know that the desktop editor has some deficiencies in terms of like how to navigate around. But as you can see, for example, if you get comfortable with using those shortcuts with your keyboard, it makes things so much easier. Like for right now, when I press Q, it removes all the gimbals. When I press W, it shows the move tool. When I press E, it shows the rotation tool. And when I press R, it's the scale. So I use that a lot whenever I'm interacting with the desktop editor. And this one, of course, is my favorite, copy positions and rotations. So in this case, I'm just gonna paste that there. So we know, Control D to copy or duplicate in this case. And I'm gonna put the other label over here. Copy this position, paste it here. And this one is gonna be for the other level that I made was about collecting balloons. So it's gonna be balloons. There you go. And I'm just gonna do something kind of like generic here, informing the player that choose a level or something. So I'm gonna say here, choose a level. And let's make this larger. Okay, so, and all of this is gonna be grouped so we can show it or hide it whenever we need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and group it. So it's gonna be this, 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 and then right click, create parent object. And this is gonna be player interface. Let's call it like that. Interface, cool. And let's see, let's build a little bit of infrastructure here so we can simulate what happened in Spy School and Citadel. And it's basically having kind of like a room where the player can go to wait for the level to load. So I'm gonna maybe search for wall here. I think we have maybe, let's use this one. This is wider. All right, and this is gonna be 90 degrees. I'm gonna move it up. Something like that. Just for ease, I like to use this for alignment too, since I know that the center is 0. And let's also bring this one for the sides, I guess. This is going to be 90 degrees, maybe. Oh, the rotation 90 degrees, not the position. Oh, this is 0 here. There you go. Something very simple. Doesn't have to be super complicated, just for demonstration purposes. So as I build this, basically the trick with world streaming with asset spawning as well is that sometimes when retrieving those assets into a new world, it might not be instant. I think I remember seeing a question, I don't think it was today or yesterday, when someone was asking how to load a HUD, heads-up display, fast for the player when the HUD is being spawned in. Well, that's not always possible. So the reason why a spy school and Citadel have, for example, a spy school have an elevator and Citadel makes you wait in a room where you can shoot targets is because it allows the player or the world to wait for the new mesh or new levels to be loaded before the player is able to interact with those things. If you were to bring the world or the experience right in front of the player, they're going to notice that something is off, right? Because regardless of what technique you use, and depending of the complexity, the object that you are spawning in or streaming might take a little bit of time to actually appear. So the trick in those scenarios is to create an environment that the player can still feel that they're engaging with the world in some way. So it can be as simple as as creating a room like this, where you can have, for example, like leaderboards or a mini game and the style of Citadel, for example, or you can have like something that I've seen in other worlds as well, is that you can have like a long hallway. So in the way that, for example, when the player enters the hallway, right, by the time it takes to reach the other end of the hallway, the new level is already loaded. So the trick there, as always, is just to create an experience or a way for the player to wait for that level to appear before they actually interact with it. So that's basically the secret sauce there. So let me just add a door here real quickly. So there's going to be maybe, I think I saw a barn door. There you go. You can just put it there. Should be good enough. Also, it's going to be 0 here. And let's see if it's tall enough just for, okay. Yeah, that's, I guess that we can raise the wall a little bit more. Oh, that's it, I guess. Okay, so let's stay there for now. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and script the part of the sublevels. So the first thing that we want to do is that we want to mock up, like for example, like where or decide where those levels are going to appear. And that's where another benefit of using world streaming is, because this is something that you cannot do with that as spawning. With world streaming, you can actually use this gizmo here called sublevel. Is under the build menu and then sublevel. And then by changing the properties, you can decide what world you want to stream and where you want to place it. So in this case, I am going to click on this preview here and select the level of the chicken that I made earlier. And if I were to have, let's say, like a cover page, I will be able to see the cover page here. So after I have this plugged in, this where the gizmo appears normally in the center of the world, I can now change it to be, let's say, active. And after I see the active, then I can just, move it around and basically decide where to put it. So in this case, this is something again that you cannot do with asset spawning. I can just decide where I want to put it. I can rotate it, scale it if I wanted to. But in this case, I just want it to appear in front of the door like that. And that's it. Oh, something that I missed to mention is, as you can see, when I stream that world, is also bringing the spawn point that that world has. I don't want that because I already have a spawn point here. So I don't want to bring a new spawn point. So let's see how we can fix that. First, I am going to unload this, and then I am going to go back to that world that we just created. So this was this one here, the demo chicken. It's one of the most powerful features that we have right now. So let's say in this case, I don't want to stream the spawn point. I don't want to bring it with me. You might want to if you want, for example, if you want to decide exactly where the player should go, but in this case, I don't need that. So the way how we can exclude something is that I can go back here into the build menu, bring another sublevel, but in this case, instead of choosing a world, I am going to change the property here of the sublevel type to be exclude. And what that does is that it basically turns this gizmo into a folder or a container that I can then drag and drop all the things that I don't want to stream into the main world. So do you see what I did that? So for example, like, uh, uh, I grabbed this spawn point here, and then I dragged it and dropped it into the sublevel gizmo here. And that way, if I go back now to the main world, we won't be able to see it. But before I do that, always remember that you have to republish the world. Undiscoverable. So confirm, let's wait until it's published. Okay, so now let's go back to the main world. That was new world 3. Loading times are a little bit slow today. Okay, so now if I show this again, a spoiler alert, there is a chance that things might look ugly right now because I just saved it. So sometimes the snapshot of the world doesn't refresh right away, but we'll see. Let's see if we're lucky. Yay, there you go. The spawn point is not there anymore, but the experience is over there. And if I actually were to play this game now, the script will not actually work because there is, if you remember correctly, I created a helper file that contained the events that this experience is going to be broadcasting into the world. The scripts that run in the trigger come with the world. However, those files, those helper files, do not. So in that case, what we need to do is that we need to recreate that file in here as well, so that when the experience broadcasts that event, the main world is able to listen to them. So in this case, I'm just gonna quickly create a shared events file again. And if I open that file now, I moved over here. The name of the event was end interaction. So const or export end interaction. And then I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a new file. And then I'm going to create a And this was a new local event, add without parameters. So let me save this. And then if I move this on the side, maybe minimize it, maybe. Always a good idea to look at the console log. I'm pretty sure I have errors. There you go. And then if I stop this, then reloads, everything is in there. Here you go. And then if I go small, if I grab one of those chickens, take it to a trigger. There you go. Just like it was in the sub level. Okay, but how can we switch these levels dynamically and basically present different experiences to the player? Let's see how we can do that. So by default, I'm gonna keep this level unloaded. So that way they don't use capacity in the world. And let's go ahead and script the main game mechanic here. So for this, I am gonna create a new Gizmo, which is gonna be a trigger here. That is gonna be basically the main playing area. This would be the equivalent of having the elevator room in Spy School or the gameplay area in Citadel. It's basically to detect if the player is in here or not. And for this, I am going to create a new script and call it Game Manager. So this one is going to be Game Manager. And then if we click on it, we can then add this logic. So let me zoom in a lot here since I received that feedback already that we want to actually see it clearly. All right, hopefully that's good. As always, I remember all these AZs. There you go. And control period, add all missing. So also, you can also like click on this light bulb and it'll also show the same menu, but I just like prefer to use shortcuts. So for this, we're gonna need quite a few variables. There are many ways that you can connect objects to a script. I'm gonna keep it super simple here, but remember that you can either use like tags, you can use sending event to register something, you can use like calling components directly, for example. But in this case, I'm gonna keep it super simple. I'm just gonna use the props. So for example, in this case, I am going to need a variable for level 1, and this is going to be type probe types. As always, everything is in the world is an entity. Let me move my mouse here. Entity. We're also going to need a variable for level 2. We're going to need a variable for the first trigger that is going to be requiring loading level 1. So I'm going to say trigger level 1. I'm going to do trigger level 2. One that is going to be to show and hide the door. So I'm going to say room door. And the level UI, basically the user interface that we just created. And we're going to keep track, just for easy access, we're going to create a variable here that is going to keep track of all the levels. So basically it's going to be levels, and this is going to be an array of sub-level entities. So in order to use world streaming, we have to activate the API for that. And that's why it's not popping up here as a suggestion. So we need to go back to the desktop editor, open the settings, and in here under API, we can activate world streaming. There you go. And after doing that, I am going to be able to specify here that these levels are actually sub-level entities. And this is going to be an array that for now is empty. We also are going to need, again, just for easy access, an array of the triggers that we're going to be using. So in this case, it's going to be array, and there's going to be triggers. This is another hallucination from AI. This is not an array of sub-level entities. This is just an array of entities. There you go. The other thing that we're going to need is a door. The reference to the Actually, we don't have to create a variable for that because we already have it in the props. Now we also need, we do need a way of referencing the level UI. I guess that we can just reference it from the props as well directly. And maybe we also need a variable to keep track if the level is completed or not. So for example, we can say is level completed, and this is going to be a Boolean. And also we need to keep track as well of what level is loaded. So there's going to be current level index. There you go. So since we have the levels, we're going to be saving the levels in an array. Using the index is going to be an easy way of knowing or accessing those levels directly. So the first thing that we want to do is that we want to make sure that we have everything connected. So a good practice is always to do something like if this level 1 or this level 2 or this level 1, oh, props. Props. There are many ways of how you can do this part, of how you can check if a prop exists or not. This again, just to keep it simple. So basically, we're just saying if those objects are not there, we're going to basically throw an error that is going to let us know, hey, you're missing connecting a variable. So in here, I can now say throw an error. The game manager requires some props. And let's start connecting some of these things. So if I go back to the desktop editor, I click on the trigger here where the game manager is going to be running. I'm going to click on attach a script, game manager. Level 1 is going to be the sublevel that I already have here in the world. Basically drag and drop it. And then for level 2, let me show you what the level 2 is going to be. So build, sublevel, and bring it over. And from here, I'm just going to select level 2 balloons. And actually, let me keep it there as a surprise of what that is. Hopefully, well, actually, I have to see it anyway. So, so there you go. It's just basically kind of like a little parkour area where you can just jump around and collect balloons. There you go. Cool. So that's going to be level 2. I'm going to make it unloaded by default. And let's go ahead, always as a best practice, to rename things. So this is going to be sublevel 1, and there's going to be sublevel 2. Sweet. So now that I have that, I can go back to the game manager script, which is running on this trigger, and connect those levels. So level 1, I already have it, and level 2 is this one. The first trigger is inside this group. There you go, that one over there. So I'm going to drag it and drop it as the level 1 selector for the chicken. And then the second trigger is for the balloons. Then the room door, again, simulating a spy school here with the elevator. Basically, I'm just going to put this barn. See, where is it? Oh, I put it inside this. Okay, yep. So the barn is going to be the door. And then the level UI is the group that I made before with the triggers and the instructions. Okay, cool. So after we have that, now if I play the scripts, cool, we don't have any errors. So let me show you real quickly what this is about having this check is that, for example, if I forget to connect a variable here, for example, if I forget to connect this, now this is going to throw an error saying, hey, by the way, you forgot to connect something. So this is basically what that check does in the script. So let me just bring it again. Level UI. There you go. Cool. So let's dive into scripting. Okay, so after we have all of that, we first have to populate the levels variable that we have here. So now we can say these levels is basically level 1 and level 2, but we need to cast those as sub-levels. So there's going to be sub-levels entity and sub-level entity. Great. The next thing, we'll have to do the same thing with the triggers. So these are going to be the triggers that we're going to be interacting with. Let's actually do the same thing here, basically casting it as what the intent purpose of that object is. In this case, it's a trigger gizmo. So we're going to just cast it here as well as trigger gizmo and as trigger gizmo as well. Great. So after we have that, we need to connect to those events to when the player touches those buttons here. Let's pretend that those are buttons. And also when the player enters or leaves the gameplay area. So in this case, we're going to be using CodeBlocks event for that. So we're going to detect this dot connect CodeBlock event. It's going to be props trigger 1, for example. And there's going to be a CodeBlock event, player enter trigger. And then we're going to get a player from it. And we're going to do something. I'm just going to create the draft of everything that I'm going to need to script, and then I'm going to fill it out with information. So for now, I'm just going to say there's going to be a to do something, right? And then I'm going to do the same for trigger 2. And I'm going to do the same thing for this entity. So level 1 and level 2, the triggers here are the props, basically in the properties panel, the variables that are connected. But this entity means the trigger where the script is actually running. So when the player enters one of these level triggers, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to activate a level. So there's going to be activate level. In this case, I'm going to want to activate level 1, or in this case, level 1 starts, with index 0. And then the second level is going to be activate at level 1. So level 1 and level 2 are index 0 and index 1. And then let's go ahead and create those methods. So in this case, it's going to be private activate a level, and we're going to be receiving an index. And when this happens, we're going to do a little bit of logic here. First, we want to say that if there is already a level in the world, we don't want to bring another one. So now we can say if this current level index is different than -1, for example, we can say return, don't do anything right now because I don't want to activate another level. And let's actually go ahead and set that the default value here, -1. Otherwise, if nothing is loaded, we cannot say, let's go ahead and save this index as the current level that is being loaded. Current level is going to be level index. Next, to prevent accidental calls to this method, we're going to deactivate the trigger. So we can say this triggers, and this, the beauty of having an array is because you can loop through that very quickly instead of having to calling it one by one. And then we can say for each trigger, yeah, we're going to deactivate it. So each trigger enabled set false. There you go. So that makes it deactivate to prevent accidental triggers. And then where the magic happens, this is the moment that we were waiting for, almost at time, but this is basically where the magic happens. We're going to say this levels, the current index now, level index. I'm just going to activate it right away. So activate. And then just to be basically friendly, we're going to show a pop-up for the players, letting them know that the level is going to appear very shortly. So you can say this world UI show pop-up for everyone, basically saying level is being as will start in, and then let's do let's display this for maybe 10 seconds, and then let's show the timer there so the players see the countdown running on the screen. So we can say show timer, we're gonna say true. Great. So with that in mind, after this timer is over, we're gonna then make the door disappear and make it non-collidable. So we can say this async timeout. We're gonna say the door props door room door is gonna be visible set false, and then we're gonna also make it non-collidable. Props room door collidable set false. There you go. And this is gonna be after 10 seconds. Perfect. So that's it for the activation. Let's see if that actually works. Okay, so let's see if that works. So I'm gonna now go back to here. Let's make sure that we have already connected. Yeah, we connected everything already. So let me just enter the world. We need to make there you go. So it's already loading. 2, 1, boom, and there you go. The chicken experience is here. I can grab it. I can collect things. But one thing that I haven't scripted yet in this main world is how to know that this level is, is over, right? And that's the purpose of having that broadcast event that I showed you earlier. So let me show you really quickly how we can interact with that. Also, I need to make this UX invisible when the level loads. So let's change that. So in here, basically, I'm just gonna make the props group, the level UI invisible, set false. There you go. And now let's see how we can detect when the level is complete. And that's where we're gonna be connecting to that share events files that we created earlier. So in here, I'm basically gonna say this connect local broadcast event. And this was an interaction with no parameters. And we're gonna basically just say, let's just call a new method. Let's call this one this level completed. Well, let's say mark level complete. So when that happens, we can simply say here, private mark level complete, and say now that this is level complete is equals true. So that's going to be relevant because now when the player returns to the main play area, we can now evaluate the state of this boolean and despawn, or I guess destroy the current level that is in the world. So when the player returns to the main game area, we cannot say, let's see, let me go back here. Yeah, so basically we can say, check if the level is complete. So only if the level is complete, this is level completed. We're gonna immediately change it to false, level completed. change it to false. And then we're gonna basically undo everything that we did before about like making things visible and invisible, right? So for example, we're gonna bring back that UI that for the player to select a new level. So we can say this props group, the level UI. We're gonna make it visible again. We're gonna reactivate the triggers. We're gonna say this triggers for each, and then we're gonna activate them. We also going to make the door visible again. This door, props door, visible true. We also need to make it collidable again. Collidable, there you go. And then we're going to unload the level. So we can say this level, this current level, we're gonna unload it. And last, let's make sure that the current level now is -1 again. Basically kind of like a signal saying, hey, no levels is loaded right now. So this current level index, -1. Okay, I think that's it. Let me see. So if we go back, so if we receive the event, we mark the boolean as complete. That's what we're doing here. And then when the player returns to the trigger, which is basically the equivalent to the elevator in Spy School or the game room in Citadel, that's when we start, let's say, destroying the current level and restoring everything to the prior state. So let's see if that works. Let's see, we never know. First thing that I like to check, we don't have any errors. That's a good thing. The other thing that I want to do is that I want to move this back to the floor so we can basically detect when the player enters the game area. Cool. And yeah, let's give it a try. Fingers crossed. You never know, Horizons. Okay, so let's press play. All right, let's actually make those triggers grabbable. I don't know if you know this, but you can actually make triggers selectables in cross screens by using this toggle and this other one here as well. All right. And then stop the world, play the world, and play. So now I can use E instead of entering the trigger. So there you go. I'm loading the second one now with the balloons. Level with starts. Yeah, let's go. So we can collect these balloons. So I have one out of 7, 2, 3, 4. Oh, almost fell there. 5. Oh, let's see. 6, 7. Yay! Balloon invasion averted. I made it. So now let's see what happens if I walk backwards like this. Let's see. Go back. Yeah, the door is closed. I can see what's behind it. So now, okay, I want to play again, but I want to play with chickens now. Let's press E here. They always start in 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, 3. Hey, there you go. We have chickens now. So now I can grab my chicken here, return it. 1 out of 5. 2. It's 1 behind the tree. 3, 4. There you go. You're safe now. And the last one. All chickens collected. So now again, if I walk backwards here, oh, there you go. The door is closed. I cannot go in anymore. And that's it. That's basically the core mechanic of world streaming and like you see in those professional build worlds. Of course, you can take this, as increase the functionalities of this. This today was a very simple implementation of it. Ideally, you want to implement like safeguards around some of that logic to make sure that everything is in place before you interact with those things. But yeah, let's go through the questions real quick. I know that we are at time, but let's at least take some time here to answer some of your questions. So let's see. So we have, let's see here. How are you bringing the element definition across? Is this spawn the scripts gonna need the script defining the event before the sublevel is spawned?
You just duplicated the script in the other world. I was just wondering if you were going to use fallback scripts or something like that to make sure you had the same actual script in both places.
Oh yeah, no, I oversimplified this example just for demonstration purposes. But yeah, definitely that's something to keep in mind. You want to make sure that's actually a great call out, because you want to make sure that you that the versions, right, of the scripts are using in the sublevels and the main world are the same. And that's what Richard is mentioning right there, is that you can actually use the abilities of FBS, of fallback scripting, is that you can create basically kind of like a version of it that you can then share with both worlds, and then make sure that you keep, the same script or the same version of logic in both places. But great call out there. Okay, I guess that was from something that I was doing before. We'll exclude remove scripts from that world if you drag those into the sublevel. I'm not quite sure what your question is here. Okay, I see. The exclude mode of the Gizmo, right? If it's gonna remove scripts from the world, if you drag those into the sublevel. Well, the thing is that with the FPS, the script is not the Gizmo itself, right? The script basically is alive as long as it's connected to something or is part of an asset template, for example. So in this case, the scripts that I was using for the chickens or for the level, for the platform level, were connecting with the mesh. So I never excluded or included scripts into the level, basically. So as long as the script is connected to something, the script is gonna also be imported into the main world. If you don't want something to not appear or to interfere with something in your world, basically don't connect it to anything. That's what I would recommend. Or what Richard was mentioning earlier, basically making sure that you use FPS to make sure that you keep the same version of the same script in both places. If you want. Okay, I see that there's a lot of conversation around that, so I'm gonna just jump in directly to the questions. Can you have the same sublevel active multiple times, hoping Horizon kicks back the ladder? Actually, I have never done that. I'm not quite sure what is gonna happen there. Let's try real quickly. I wonder why. You always find the most interesting use cases. So let's see. Sublevel. Let's bring it real quickly. See if we can bring another group of chickens here. And that was chicken one. And let's make it active. And the level one as well active. Let me move it away. And let's see if they both work. Honestly, this is a first for me. And it's going to be active as well. There you go. Okay, cool. And then let's play the simulation. Looks like they both work. If I grab this one here. Okay, that was great. Then if I grab this one. Yeah, okay, both work. Yeah, they both keep track independently, so they don't interfere. To rephrase that, can I call activate on sublevel Gizmo if it's currently loading or loaded? Oh, I see. So in this case, yeah, okay, Richard already replied there. Yeah, you can only have one level, one state. If you try to do something that is not permitted, that's another great thing about sublevels, is that the error most of the time is very specific. You're gonna get information about, like, saying like level is currently loading or you're running over capacity and stuff like that. Definitely a more robust implementation than asset spawning.